Hello and welcome to Sports Console, your playbook for all things sports. I'm your host Matt, and I'm here with Bryant for this episode of the show. On today's episode of the Fantasy Draft Primer, we're discussing the quarterbacks and tight ends. We'll discuss how you should be approaching these positions in your draft, as well as share some of our favorite players at the position that you can find across the board this season. Today is August 20th, 2026, and this is episode 221 of the show.
Well, Matt, how are your legs? How are you feeling, buddy?
It's a two-man operation today, huh, Bryant? Just like at our hike a couple days ago.
Just you and me struggling out here in this big old wide world.
Yeah. For those who are uninformed or, are not our close personal friends, me and Bryant actually did a hike about a couple days ago. I think it was Sunday, right? Today's Thursday.
Yeah, it was Sunday. I think it actually wasn't a hike. I think it was closer to a death march. I think it was closer to the term there.
I'd characterize it as that. It was a 38-mile hike around SF, and I don't mean like in the city. We mean around the perimeter of SF. So we literally walked the entirety around the city, which was 38 miles. And we started at 7 a.m., got up at
7 a.m.
5 a.m.
on the dot.
Yeah. Got up at like 5, 6, went there at 7 at the Embarcadero. Then we just walked for 14 hours and 45 minutes. We finished right before midnight. So that was bad. Not good.
Yeah. A lot longer than we expected. We got to shout out a couple of people. Shout out to Bread Belly Bakery for keeping us there for 40 minutes of wait time. And also for the founders of the Crosstown Trail who put us up to this, or basically we found it and we had to do this endeavor because they made it out there. So shout out to those guys for adding up for a very, very long Sunday hike.
No shout out to the founders. You guys stop making trails. I'm 100% serious. By mile 10, I said some not very nice things about your existence in creating this trail. It sucked, and it was not fun. I'm glad I did it, and I'm glad I can say that I did it. And I walked more steps than I've ever done in my life and probably will ever do in a single day. But that trail sucked. It was not fun. And it took us, 3 days to recover, and that's why we're doing this on a Thursday right now.
Yeah, we literally couldn't even get on the computer. Matt told me he couldn't even climb on his computer, the podcast earlier in the week here. So yeah, it's been a rough recovery.
The day after, the morning after, I tried to get up from my bed, and my leg locked, and I almost fell over.
Oh my God. That's crazy.
I'm so glad. Yeah. I mean, I didn't, but I was like, damn.
Yeah, I was just like Tylenol, slapping like lidocaine patches all over myself, like 4 or 5 patches on Monday. That's how I survive and just walking around my house. So yeah, 40 miles, close to 40 miles. It's no joke.
Yeah, my feet were bruised. They're still a little bruised, but yeah. It was not fun. Don't do hikes. Just don't hike in general, people. Like, it's not worth it.
Or just don't do a 40-mile hiking one day. I think you can leave it at that. But actually making a jump to football a little bit. I think you and I, towards the end, like mile 32, we were like hallucinating, but we were talking ball. So I was literally going into psychosis at mile 30. I ran, like my AirPods died, so I couldn't listen to podcasts anymore or music, and my phone was dying, so I couldn't, all I had to think about was, oh God, I had 8 more miles of this. So I'm just like, I'm losing my mind. I straight up was thinking like, I'm losing my mind. So I had to climb up to you. We had 4 people on this hike, by the way. So I went up to Bryant. He was in the lead. And I was like, yo, we got to talk. We got to take my mind off something. We got to talk fantasy football because straight up, I am losing my mind right now. And we had to just talk we just basically played a game where it's like, okay, let's just talk about this player for a little bit. Let's get the scouting report. And, that's why we do this. That's why we have us on this podcast are crazy about football, and it's not just for show. We talk about it on our def hikes. Literally, like, we're so dedicated to football. Like, even on Dessa's door, we're still talking ball. We're still researching out there. We're still getting the show ready for you guys. So you know where our
Dude, I
heart's
was
at.
talking I was talking Jalen Waddle's fantasy outlook for
Oh my God.
2026. Ooh, yeah.
J-
I live for this.
Live and die.
Yeah. But either way, we're fully recovered. If you're wondering why it's a two-man operation today, G is actually traveling right now. He's going to win it big in Vegas. That boy be gambling. So best of luck to him. Hopefully he doesn't leave the company destitute here. So
Fingers crossed. Good luck, G.
yes. But either way, it's just you and me, Bryant. Let's get through this like we got through our hike. I think this will be a little bit easier. But before we get to that, where can the people find Sports Council, Bryant?
The people can find us on Instagram, Threads, Twitter, TikTok, and we are, quote, at sports_council, spelled COUNSEL, not your gaming console or anything like that. We are a council. We are Sports Council. You can always find information about us. Our link is in the bio. Also join our Discord. We're going to be doing mocks. The fan season is just around the corner, just getting started. Join the Discord and join us for some live mocks and be ready to crush it for the season.
Yes, sir. It is mock season. It is fantasy football draft season. So we are definitely putting all our takes out there on social media. All the takes that we can't get to in these episodes, we put it out on our social media. So definitely make sure to follow at sports_council. Yes, COUNSEL. That is, we need that spelling. It's very important. And yeah, you got to join the mocks. You got to join the Discord, join the mocks, practice with your fellow, analysts and listeners out there. And we are going to be stocking up on shirts. We're going to be sending out the link to that soon. If you want to buy a Sports Council shirt, get some merch before the start of the season, that will also be on the social medias and Discord. So definitely fill out your interest form there. We'll hook you up. They're super nice shirts. I'm actually wearing my Sports Council shirt right now. That's why I just brought it up.
It's absolutely great shirt. Anytime I go out in public, I'm wearing it. I'm marketing up for Sports Council out there. Hopefully get some listeners off of that.
Yes. All right. So let's actually get into the topic for today, which is quarterbacks and tight ends. Last week, we discussed the running backs and wide receivers, and we did the whole crash course on that, the who, the where, the why, and whatnot. Now we got to focus on the other two positions of quarterbacks and tight ends. And if you kind of listen to what we said in the last week's episode, that's great. I'll do just a little refresher kind of on more of the draft strategy behind it, because I do this every year and I feel like I overcomplicate it when my explanation for running backs and wide receivers. So I want to make it very, very simple. I kind of look back on kind of how I could explain it a little bit better, because usually when you're on the draft board and it's like round 4 or 5 or whatever, right? You have the choice between like the running back 20 versus the quarterback 6, right? And you could be like, oh, I don't have a quarterback yet, and this guy could be the 6th best quarterback, or I could get like a very mid running back who's like a starter on a bad team or just not a very good starter, right? And maybe that's the decision that you're getting, you're trying to make. But the thing is, you have to think about the entire draft board, right? Think about it in this way. You could either get the running back 20 or quarterback 6 in round 4, and you can get the, running back 50 like in round 9, or the quarterback 10, right? You have the option to draft a quarterback later and still basically make up the difference, right? Like when we did the study last week, I said that the difference between the quarterback 4 versus the quarterback 10, it's like 1 or 2 points max. If you look at the gap between the running back 22 and the running back like 32, it's like 3 points. It's a lot more, right? And I'll pull up the study where it's like running back 12 through 24 versus the running back 25 through 36. There's an average of a 3-point gap between them, right? Versus the quarterback 4 through 8 versus the quarterback 9 through 12. It's a 1-point gap at most, right? So even if you draft the 12th best quarterback in your draft, which is it's going to probably be all the way down to the 11th round or 12th round or whatever, you're going to lose like a point maybe. But if you decide to wait on a running back and, instead of using that late round pick on a quarterback and use it on a running back, you're losing an average of 3 points. Then you double that because you have to draft 2 running backs and you have to start 2 running backs. So again, quarterbacks are always going to be available late in the draft. And the difference is so small between every single one of them. Like Josh Allen versus like maybe I don't know, was like a really bad quarterback, like
a bad quarterback,
or Shedeur Sanders, like
Shedeur.
Okay, Shedeur, like a mid-sized quarterback. Like no one's even gonna draft Shedeur. Like let's go with like Kirk Cousins or God.
Like a Bo Nix kind of like.
Okay, yeah, Bo
good,
Nix.
But statistically, he's like a bit more middle than Josh Allen because Shedeur is like maybe that's 100, 200 point difference. I don't know what the numbers are, but yeah, let's try Bo Nix for size.
You're probably gonna lose like 6 points between the quarterback 1 and Josh Allen versus whatever quarterback tier that Bo Nix you believe he's in. I think he's probably like 10 to 12 range, right? So at that point, it's like, okay, maybe you do Josh Allen. But the difference between like a Bo Nix versus like a Jalen Hurts or like a Bo Nix and a Justin Herbert, right? It's so small. It's like 1 point. But the difference between like a running back 24, let's say David Montgomery is the running back 24, and then your running back 32 to 36 is like Rachaad White, right? That's a much bigger difference. Right. So that's why it's like, okay, once you get to a tier of quarterbacks where it's like, oh, they're all literally the same. So if they're all the same, why are you prioritizing it? Just wait until the last possible moment to draft that quarterback. Right. Like I literally, it's scary. And you're kind of honestly playing chicken, but I wait until like double-digit rounds to draft my quarterbacks. And I do that with tight ends too. Like the same logic applies with tight ends. If you ran the study again, it's again a 3-point average for running backs over the last 5 years. It's literally 1 single point for tight ends. The difference between last year's tight ends 4 through 8 and the tight ends 9 through 12 was 0. There was no difference between if you drafted the tight end 4 versus the tight end 12. So if you can get the tight end 12 with a 11th round pick versus the tight end 4 at the 4th round pick, I'd rather go with the 12th round pick because again, you didn't even make up any difference, but you can make up that difference with running backs. You can make it up with wide receivers. That's the thing.
Yeah, exactly. Like I like to think of it as, exactly that scarcity mindset that you mentioned there, where it's like, yeah, you might say, oh, quarterback, you can throw so much more points than my running back, but you need at least 2 running backs, if not more, depending on how much flex positions that you have. Whereas for most leagues out there, unless you're in a 2 QB league, you just need 1 quarterback per league. And then going through experience here, right? Typically, even late in the season, if you need to pick up a quarterback that has a good shot at being like a QB1, they're probably out there week by week. That's going to be completely gone for running backs. Like late in the season, you're looking at RB3s and 4s on the respective teams already. So that's definitely less present. And it's the same goes for tight ends as well, where you have the truly elite tight ends, maybe like 3 or 4 like a season, and then everyone else just at that same tier. And in most leagues, if you don't have those top end tight ends, you're probably streaming a tight end week in and week out there. But that being said, speaking from my experience, depending on what you consider punting or not, I wouldn't recommend punting on both quarterback and tight end. Like it's definitely doable, but then you're going to spend a lot of time trying to play with like roster management and getting the right guys waiver wire each week. So we'll definitely recommend, it. And that probably leaves some advice Matt I'm sure will talk about later, but maybe you get one, you lock in your quarterback or your tight end for the season, then you punt on the other, and then maybe stream that other position a little bit more there. So that's my train of thought.
Yeah, and the recommendation here isn't just say like just draft whatever, right? It's not about because they're all the same doesn't mean you should just draft a random name out of the hat, right? Like you put some research in it. Just pick a guy that you think has the potential to climb up, right? And if he doesn't, you cut him easily, and then you just get the next guy. Like quarterbacks and tight ends are so available on the market, like in free agency, you could just pick a guy to basically be an average quarterback, and he'll be an average quarterback. So if you're gonna draft a guy and spend a draft pick on him, try to get a guy that's just riskier, right? High upside, because if it doesn't pan out, you can always get the average guy later, right? So the goal is basically just to draft. If you're going to do a draft and draft a quarterback, you draft a guy with a very high potential. Like last year, I drafted a very young second-year player who I thought had the potential to break out, which was Drake May. And I drafted him in the 10th round, and I think he finished as the quarterback 3 or 2 or something like that. And that's the kind of breakout I want, right? But if he didn't work out, and I had my reservations early on, I could have easily cut him and just brought in like just a random mid kind of quarterback. Like I'm sure like there was a ton of quarterbacks out on the market. Like Jacoby Brissett last year. He was very kind of mid. He honestly was actually pretty good at the end of the year, but
Yeah.
you know, that's the kind of option that's going to be available for you, and he can very easily make up that difference, right?
Exactly. Yeah, like there's always those heroes late in the season, late waiver wire pickers. Not at all the positions too, but those quarterbacks and tight ends, especially younger ones that jump out later in the season, right? You're going to see a lot of production from those. You can always wait for that further down in the season.
Yeah. And Brian, I do want to ask you, like, which one would you rather punt in this case? Like, let's say, like, would you rather have a top tier quarterback or a top tier tight end? Like, that's the argument here.
Well, yeah, it's interesting. It always depends, of course, on the specific draft itself. Although for myself, I don't I don't think I ever really get any of like those top 3 tight ends. I typically punt on tight end
Hmm.
and go for like a better quarterback more. Like I've had like like Jalen Hurts, Jalen Daniels for some good seasons before, but I typically do wait on tight end just later on. Just because I typically might stream tight ends a bit more kind of week in week out there. But I would prefer getting that quarterback position set for the season just because of how much points they can contribute.
Yeah. I mean, I generally agree with you too. I'd rather have a quarterback, top tier quarterback, than a top tier tight end, because a top tier quarterback usually is like 20 points, right? Like, it's a walk-in 20 points. So it's good to have that in your lineup where it's just like, okay, I got Josh Allen this week. He's going to give me at least 20 of the 100 points I need to probably beat this guy. That's harder for tight ends. And I'll say this honestly, the weakest position in terms of like my ability to evaluate is tight end. Like I have never been able to figure out tight ends.
Oh,
I can figure out kickers. I can't figure out tight ends.
I'm right there with you, man. It's a tough one. I think G's our resident tight end guru, but he is
Yeah.
able for now.
Too bad, man. He's our triple tight. He used to run 3 tight end lineups and win. So he was very good at it. Dylan has he's very good with the receivers, but yeah, G is probably our triple tight king. Yeah, too bad. Too bad. We'll have to get his opinion on that later. But that's, I guess, some of the strategy. I think we're kind of aligned, right, Brian? Like, I think I think the thing is like, if you have the opportunity, draft the top guy. But if not, don't just say, okay, I need to get a tight end in like the 5th round or the 6th round. At that point, punt it all the way, right? Just go all the way down and try to find, like, because usually the difference is not great, and the opportunity cost of not drafting that running back or running back or wide receiver is significant.
Yeah,
So
exactly. Like, here's the most important advice for tight ends. Every year if you punt on it, don't worry. You can always pick up David Njoku, Hunter Henry on the waiver wires, and they'll be like tight end ones for the first like 4 games of the season. So mark our words. That's
very,
what happens
very
every time.
familiar with that. When you play fantasy football long enough and you struggle at tight end every year, you get real familiar with the names that are on the waiver wire. You forgot the legend of weeks 1 and 2 tight end. You know his name.
Oh,
Come
you
on,
mean not
man.
Hunter Henry?
That is Hunter Henry. I thought
Oh,
I
yeah,
didn't know
Hunter
if you
Henry.
mentioned Hunter
Oh,
Henry.
I said
I
it
heard
earlier,
Njoku.
but yeah, David Njoku, Hunter Henry. So
Yeah, Hunter
every year.
Henry. Every time. Every time. Well, speaking of kind of some of the names at the position, we're going to talk a little bit more about the tight ends and quarterbacks we're interested in this year. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to name one target at each position that we actually like and would target at the position. And then we're also going to tell you one of the players that who is the worst possible option that we'd be okay with starting, right? And when we're talking about that, we're talking real nasty, right? We're getting way into the trenches. We have to, stomach our pride and be like, yes, I would start him in that lineup. Like, even if it gets real grimy, right? It's the worst possible option to start. So it's not going to be pretty names, I'll tell you that. But
Best to start learning them now because could perhaps save your season or not.
yeah. Do you want to start off with your quarterback? Which one would you
Yeah.
rather start? Would you just start with the target or the worst possible option?
I'll start with a target for a quarterback, and I'll cheat a little bit here when talking about quarterbacks because you know me as the resident USC fan, I have to go for Caleb Williams and his
Oh
offense. I mean, he
boy.
legit has great offense this year, but that's all I'll say for now. I've been doing my mock drafts, and I don't think I've picked Caleb once in any of the drafts I've done. I don't even know where he's kind of like what rounds to be
Yeah.
kind of like falling through there. So I haven't really got him at all. I think the more interesting ones, and I'm gonna say two because I feel like these two are neck and neck at least for the last couple of years, and they're always just I think at a very good value. And you see those names come up in the draft, I'm like, okay, great, I can get these guys, and that's Brock Purdy and like Brock Purdy and Dak Prescott there. I feel like
Oh,
those names typically are falling a bit more. I would say actually more towards Purdy. I think he's typically going a bit after Dak, at least from the mocks that I've done there. I mean, I just like what Brock Purdy has was the Niners offense, so many weapons, or well, not so many weapons, but mostly Mike Evans now out there. Hopefully Kittle is healthy, and then Dijon Sterling, he's been pretty good so far in the preseason. He's been making noise already out there. So I've typically in my drafts have settled upon guys like, Purdy, maybe more towards Stafford, close to Purdy than where Prescott is these days. But that's definitely kind of the tier of, quarterbacks that I see these guys, I'm targeting it because they have really good offensive situations. So they typically will, these QBs will typically score a lot of points kind of week in and week out, and you can rely on them.
yeah. And honestly, I think we probably should have covered the kind of characteristics you want to look for in a quarterback, and we can get to that now. I think the two biggest things I look for in a quarterback when I look for a quarterback is, do they have weapons, first of all? Like, can they move the ball with these kinds of players, right? Like, the Dolphins have no receivers whatsoever, and it's very scary, and that probably really depresses the value of, Malik Willis. Joe Burrow obviously has T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, so he's pretty good every year, and he's got gigantic weapons. You also have to obviously look for a good offensive coordinator, and that's more subjective, but sometimes when you have like real bad names like Shane Waldron for Caleb Williams' rookie year, he really just destroyed
Oh
him.
man.
Yeah, like that's a big thing. And then I think the third thing I'd say is rushing upside, because rushing is huge for quarterbacks, because quarterbacks, they only get 1 point for every 25 passing yards, right? But they are graded like a running back when they get rushing yards. So if you have a quarterback that can run, like Lamar, cheat code. Josh Allen, cheat code, right? Jaden Daniels, cheat code. Like they run the ball. So I think with the Brock Purdy pick, I like it because he actually runs a lot more than,
Yeah.
it's not great for us because he's running for his life usually, but, it
Like
hasn't gotten better.
he's surgical. He knows Purdy is really good at knowing when it's right for him to run and pick up those chunk yardage, get that first down out there. So he's dependable for a few yards, kind of like week in, week out there. In addition to, him being, great was the ball, and then having all those weapons and a great offensive scheme from Shanahan in San Francisco. So yeah, some of the key reasons why I always like kind of Purdy and I'm looking for him in my mock drafts.
Yeah, and I think he had 3 rushing touchdowns last year too. I'm not saying it's going to be a consistent thing, but he did have a couple of, bootlegs. Like he did a couple of like fake, handoffs and runs for himself in the end zone. So I do like it. I like Purdy, and I think Mike Evans is going to really help him this year in terms of red zone targets.
Definitely.
Yeah, and then Dak, obviously he has Pickens, he has CD. It should be a good offensive, system. Defense is probably still not the best, so he'll probably get into a lot of shootouts. Dak is always good for he's a consistent guy. I'm not saying he's not always top tier, but he's a starter that you'd be okay with, like,
He's been
playing.
a consistent garbage time merchant for quarterbacks. That's how he gets his QB1 numbers, just throwing that ball, yeeting that ball when the game is more than over there, which is good
Yeah,
for you
and
guys as fantasy players.
Dak is 81 right now on Sleeper's ADP. Brock Purdy's 119. So yeah, you're getting like him in like the 9th, 10th round. I'd take that honestly every time. I'd be very much okay with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Who are you looking for,
Uh,
Matt? Who you targeting in your draft for QB?
okay. Well, I have two targets that I would consider. I'll give two since you gave two. Uh, I really like Trevor Lawrence this year. I really like that what he was doing at the end of the season in Jacksonville. I've never always been a great T-Law, fan. Like G, again, he's like the big T-Law fan out of all of us here. He's been rooting for him ever since his rookie year. He always predicts the Jaguars win the division, and he thought Trevor Lawrence was going to win MVP, one of those prediction episodes that we've done before. So he's the big guy, but he's not here today. I'll come and defend Trevor Lawrence for him. He was lighting it up at the end of the season. I know he had a very short postseason, but he was so good that I honestly thought that Jacksonville was so hot to end the year. I think so let me read off some of the stats that he had. The last 4 games of the regular season, Trevor Lawrence had 23 fantasy points, 24, 31, and 44. So
Jesus.
he had 11 touchdowns passing, 4 touchdowns rushing in that, and he didn't have anything less than 255 passing yards. He also averaged around 20 yards per game on the ground. Like, was sensational. Like, he's almost everything you could look for. And like Liam Cohen, I think what happened was like he wasn't doing very well to start the season. Like the first 4 games, nothing to write home about. Didn't even have more than 12 points per game. But he really started to get it going at the end of the season. Call it bad defenses, call it whatever you want. But I think he really just started to adapt in Liam Cohen's system. And I think that's the biggest thing. And I don't see any reason why he can't continue to light it up, especially since, one, the running room doesn't look as good as it did last year. Travis Etienne's gone. Bashal Tutin's the guy. I don't really know a lot about him, so I can't say for sure that he's going to be a supreme threat on the ground, right? That's just me. I don't really know him that well, but he's still got his, litany of receivers. He's got Brian Thomas, he's got Parker Washington, he's got Jacoby Myers, Travis Hunter, Brenton Strange. Like, I just don't see a way that, it's going to rely on Trevor. It's going to be the passing offense. And I think Liam Cohen in his second year, he's going to amp it up to the next level. He wants to build on the momentum that they had last year. And he's got the rushing upside. He's got the passing upside. And again, this is the price. He's going at the same price as Brock Purdy, I think. I think they're almost back to back. I think Trevor is 98. Purdy is 119. So a little bit more than Brock Purdy, but still probably in your 8th, 9th round. So if you can get a quarterback that I think could go to running quarterback 5, top 5, I would take that opportunity.
Yeah.
And I think that's what did he finish at? He finished as quarterback 4 last year. So it's in the range. He's in the range.
Really? He was QB4. I wouldn't have guessed that. I thought like in the closer to like that QB, lower QB1 tier. Wow,
he was
popped
winning
off.
fantasy leagues like last season. Oh my God. He was crazy. He was going crazy. I had to face him against that 44-point performance. I was so pissed off.
Jesus. Yeah, I mean, T-Law, he's not a spring chicken anymore. He's been in the league for a little while, and I feel like for the longest time it was, okay, this is going to be T-Law's year. But last year was just, especially towards the end of the season, just giving him so much momentum. And now Liam Cohen's second year, savants across all of his pass catchers there, except maybe Brian Thomas, depending on if you're a fan of him or not. That's a different story. But no, I mean, he has the weapons, he has the scheme. Probably has the schedule too, just given the divisions just given the division that they play in there. So it's all pointing towards T-Law having yet another great season.
Yeah. And the second one I want to point out is, this one's a little risky now. Bear with me now. Tyler Shaw. And I hope I said that right.
Okay.
Tyler
Shuck.
Shaw.
That's what they're pronouncing it for. I thought it was show, but he's a shuck apparently.
I will plant my flag on him this season, just like I planted my flag with Drake May. From the producers that brought you Drake May in the 10th round last year comes Tyler Shaw in probably the 12th or 13th round this year, because he is 168 in the draft boards. I've been able to get him with like the third to last pick in the drafts. And why do I believe in this 26-year-old second-year quarterback in New Orleans that basically probably no one has heard about? Like, here's the thing. He was drafted fairly high. I want to say maybe second or third round, but he's going to be the guaranteed starter probably heading into this year because Spencer Rattler's awful. Like, we're not going to do that again. So that's like one part I think people think is the stability of his position. Like, is he going to be benched? The answer is maybe, but I honestly think that he showed a lot last season that he's probably going in as a starter, surefire starter. He's getting all the first team snaps. He's developing, right? The other thing is that I really loved what he did last season. Again, you have to look at prior year performances, and what he was doing last year needs to be talked about a little bit more, because from the moment he became the starter, he only had 2 games under 10 points. And I think, I don't know if he was, just coming in for like in relief for one of those games or not. But other than that, he had double-digit fantasy points in every single game. His stretch last year, 6 games, 18, 22, 18, 17, 21, 22, right? He also has a lot of rushing upside. He averages like about 5 attempts, like 5 scrambles, basically a game. And he even, scores a couple touchdowns. He also had 3 rushing touchdowns last year. I think he's very underrated. It reminds me a lot of Drake May, because in his rookie season, Drake May didn't start immediately, but when he did start, he never went under 10 points per game in terms of the fantasy points, because he had a good rushing floor. He liked to scramble, he liked to run, and he was just very accurate. Like when these rookies kind of show these flashes, you want to be in on them, right? And again, the price is super cheap in order to get in on Tyler Shaw right now. But the bigger thing that I'm excited for is what he can do now, right? Because with Drake May, if he could do that with all the garbage that he had in New England that year, then they upgraded the offensive line. Then they got Stephon Diggs. Then they got Josh McDaniels, right? And it started to turn around. That's what elevates an okay starter to a great starter. Now look at Tyler Shaw. Unfortunately, Jordan Tyson was drafted and he got injured. So we can't really, that's the only thing that's kind of hurting this argument. But I was going to point out that Jordan Tyson is now there as a second fiddle to Chris Olave. But Chris Olave is still great. Jawan Johnson's still there. They upgraded with Travis Etienne, right? Alvin Kamara, I'm sorry, but he's getting a little old. So
Rest in peace.
and he's also hurt now. So, now you got Travis Etienne, who's a good receiving back, right? And he's got Kellen Moore. And if Kellen Moore is now, like, he's a good offensive coordinator, he also plays at an incredibly fast pace. No one averages more offensive plays per game in the NFL than Kellen Moore's, teams. So the Saints did that last year. Think of just how much volume you're going to get. Even if he's not great, at least there's a lot of plays for him to be able to make points out of. So I think he's very interesting as a prospect this year. Again, you can get him for cheap. And I'm not saying he's the next Drake May. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying it was around the same price as Drake May. And I think there's upside there that, you can't miss. And again, if he sucks, you cut him, you move on. But if there's a chance, like I just like it a lot more than the Bo Nixes of the world or the Jared Goff. Like Jared Goff is going ahead of him right now. I don't think Jared Goff's going to go, like, he's probably not going to be a top 5 quarterback. I'm just saying that right now. I think Shaw has a chance of doing that.
Top 5.
Top 5 is a stretch. I'm like, it's hard, but if Drake
to
May
get
can do
closer
it,
to, like-
if Drake May was QB2 or whatever, and he almost was MVP runner-up, and that was a hard thing to like see. Shaw is a little bit harder because he was in a first-round pick, but I could see the jump, right? I can't see any jump with Jared Goff. I think Jared Goff's going to finish exactly where he probably was. Like, he was QB9 last year. That's probably because he was just available all the time. But I just don't see, like, I could see Shaw out leaping Goff. But I could also see him, completely falling flat. And if that's the case, then just pick up Goff off waivers. It's not that hard.
Yeah, like I think one of the points you made earlier about the volume of Tyler Shuck, guess, and the Kellen Moore offense, I think that's really important because I sometimes was questioning why are Olave and Tyson going so high in drafts right now? Like, this is still New Orleans, man. It's Tyler Shuck throwing them the ball. But then that's a good point there, and it shows how important having a good offensive scheme is, right? You such a high tempo offense, you're going to get the reps, you're going to be throwing that ball out there. Someone's going to be catching it, so the points are going to spread themselves out for that New Orleans offense, and it does have potential to be that high-powered one. I'm personally, I would say, not as optimistic about. I would say his peak for me, I can see him getting as high as like a low end QB1, like between like QB10 to maybe even close to 15. I think that would be his like peak there, for the sole reason of just his age. He's 26, and then he was a 25-year-old rookie out there. I don't have a stat to back this up there, but I would say generally, like, if you join the league, exactly, like as an older quarterback, like, you can be older at other positions and still do well out there. I think especially for quarterback, I haven't seen that happen lately, at least. If someone comes in the league, 25 or around that 24 to 26 range there, and they just like do well, they're that superstar. That just doesn't happen. Like, everyone, I would say, I'm just trying to think all the QBs in the top 10 right now. They all started off, young, highly touted prospects, and they did well. They're all like, people knew what they were getting out of college. So just the pedigree is, I think, the biggest thing, at least for me, going against Tyler Shuck. Just like kind of putting a cap on his potential out there. It's just his age. But he is in a good position. He has the scheme and the weapons around him, and he would be set up for success.
I think it's ironic that I'm fighting for an old guy in this case. I think with the old position, like, the thing with that is that young quarterbacks have more potential to jump, right, and make a leap. Like, I'd say, like, Caleb Williams, like, like, because they're still learning the position at that point, right? I think with Shaw, it's probably like, and like older quarterbacks, it's like they already know what they're doing, and that might make them peak earlier, but that just means that they don't have a lot of potential later, right? So yeah, maybe you're right, Bryant, in that there's probably not going to be a leap in terms of like mechanics wise. Like, what you see is what you get with Shaw, probably. But, I liked what I saw last season so far. I'm not asking for a lot. I'm asking him to be a point guard and get the ball to his playmakers and follow the Moore system, and then just make some runs. I would like you to keep making some runs. Like, I was surprised by how mobile he was last year. Deceptively athletic, as they call it.
Sneaky athletic, as they say out there.
Lunch pail kind of guy,
Classic.
So, that's the potential I like to see. So, that's what I want to target in terms of like mobility. Mobility is the big thing. I think I like it. Okay, that's nice in terms of targets. Let's talk about the garbage here. Who's like the worst possible one that you want to like real disgusting?
You want me to get even more disgusting than the ones I got out there? I might pivot a little bit from some of the names I kind of discussed with you earlier. I'll caveat this as like, quarterbacks, I think, are either like you could still run with them for the season even though they're drafted low, or I think are like pretty underrated given where they're going in drafts right now. Don't scream at me. I'm not being biased. I swear to God, but I just don't understand. I can kind of see why, but I would make the case for Sam Darnold. He's going super low in drafts. Like, I don't think he's even drafted in some drafts, but he's coming off a Super Bowl winning season, which I know that doesn't mean kind of the most out there. He has JSN in the office, and I think the reason why and he finished last season as like QB12, QB like 13, like a low end QB1 out there, and he's going as like a bottom like shit tiered QB right now in terms of we're drafted like 22nd or something like that out there. I think the biggest hit for what I've seen out there is just so many changes to the New Orleans offense. You know, there's no more Kenneth Walker, or sorry, Seattle's offense, right? No more Kenneth Walker. They have a new offensive coordinator in town I don't think he's brand new, hasn't called plays before. So that's probably the biggest hit against Darnold. And Darnold also has turnover problems out there. But I mean, he's coming off of like a pretty solid season, was, you know, a Super Bowl, and even the prior seasons in Minnesota, he's throwing the ball out there. He's a real gunner, and he has JSN, which I think that probably is also another reason why he's lower. He only has JSN out there. Like guys like Cooper Kupp are getting older, but I would see Darnold as like serviceable. Like, I know, Matt, you might disagree. Like, I would definitely pick Darnold over guys like, you know, Tyler Shuck, Malik Willis, definitely over guys like Stroud and Jones out there. I would stick with my guy, but I know you would definitely disagree on that point.
I will do it over Stroud. I don't even want to start Stroud. Like, let's not even do that. Shaw, I like his potential. I would rather do Shaw over Darnold because I don't think Darnold will run. That's the thing. I think Shaw will run. Gosh, and then who else did you mention? Like
Willis.
I will say. Okay, we'll get to.
I will say. I know you're talking. Yeah, but I'll just say it now. Like I just don't get the Malik Willis hype. Like I just do not get it at all.
That's fair.
If anyone wants to talk about it, they can bring it up. But I mean, that's my reason out there.
With Darnold, the thing I see with him is that people think he's probably going to regress because it's a great season. Like, it's hard to replicate that kind of season, especially with JSN, you know, getting the insane target volume he had and it just working, right? It just always worked whenever he targeted JSN. And, you know, that's expected to take a dip. But at the same time, Seattle basically did not pass at all last season. They were the highest frequent, like, they ran the most running plays out of every team. So the passing percentage was very low. You'd obviously expect to see that probably change with the new offensive coordinator, plus Clint Kubiak's gone, right? It's Brian Fleury now, who's a former Niners tight ends coach. Maybe he passes it more, and that gives more volume. So even if they're not as efficient, they still get more plays to, you know, get some points. And again, it's all about opportunity. So honestly, I could see it. If I really had to, I just wouldn't draft. I'm not going to draft Sam Darnold. I'd just go into, you know, I'd finish the draft without a quarterback, and then I'd pick up Sam Darnold off waivers because I'm not even going to draft him. Like, that's not part of the conversation. But, you know, that's what it is. Like, worst possible option to start. And, you know, you pick up an extra running back or wide receiver when you kind of do that stuff. But
Fair point.
I already hinted at it, but my worst possible quarterback is Malik Willis. Let me preface by saying I don't really think he's very good. Like, I don't think Malik Willis is good.
Please make the case for Malik Willis, Matt.
It's not about football. It's about fantasy football. That's the case for Malik Willis, and that's the case for garbage quarterbacks, right? Like, you don't have to necessarily be good at football in order to be good at fantasy football. Justin Fields last year, we did this segment last year, and G mentioned Justin Fields as his worst possible quarterback that he'd start. And he was right. He was honestly right for maybe a week or two before, you know, Fields went to complete shit. But it's because of the rushing volume, right? Malik Willis, the only thing we know about him is that he likes to run. He likes to take off. He likes to scramble. And again, those points are super valuable. If you just get 50 yards rushing from just scrambles, that's 5 points right there, right? You'd have to do a lot more in order to, like, you'd have to get what? Oh God, I'm doing math in my head right now. Like 125 passing yards in order to do that. And maybe that's going to be the case. Maybe he's going to have 125 passing yards with that terrible wide receiving room, but he's also going to pick up 5 yards rushing, and, you know, he'll have himself a 10-point game. But that's exactly what it is, right? You don't even have to add touchdowns in that. 10 points just from 125 passing yards and 50 rushing yards. That's all I'm asking for, right? Double-digit fantasy performance. And that's the garbage right now we're dealing with. But I think that, you know, he has the potential to just run his way into getting all the points for you. And again, I'm not endorsing drafting him any further than probably the 13th round, but we've seen that he could technically, he passed for 288 yards in one of his only starts against Baltimore. And then he had 60 rushing yards. He had 44 the previous game. We know that he's probably going to get a lot of, attempts. He's going to get a lot of rushing yards. That's just how it is. And then when Miami's like 3rd and 20, right? They're just going to let him scramble. Defenses are not even going to, cover. They're just going to let him scramble and just pick up garbage time yards. And they're probably going to be behind a lot. So he's probably going to have to pass. He's probably going to have to run. So I think the only thing is like, if he really sucks, they might replace him. But at the same time, he just signed a huge deal. So I don't think they're going to do that. So that's my case. Not very great, but
Yeah, I guess, yeah. I mean, you have to play him. You gave him a 3-year, 67 million. Why for Malik Willis? That's crazy. I keep on my impression Malik Willis was, and this is, I remember when he was like on the Packers and starting, and I saw it was his like first game starting. I'm like, I'm taking the unders passing here. I'm taking the unders every, and that definitely hit. And that guy continued to hit the unders every time. Like that guy, I don't think. I guess this guy passed for like even close to 200 yards. He probably has like 200
he had a
game,
288. He did 288.
He had 288. But yeah, I mean, he's just not a prolific passer out there. And then I honestly just don't want to have anything. Like if your name isn't Devon A. Chain, I'm not even turning an eye for you at like this Miami offense right there. Like I don't think their line is even that good. And then their wide receiver rooms, maybe one of those bums is good by the end of the season there, but definitely not at drafting time. So yeah.
No, yeah, and again, this is not an endorsement. This is like, oh shit, I forgot to draft a quarterback. Now I'm stuck with the garbage. This is the one guy that, like he's probably still there. Like we're expecting him to be there. We're not even considering that he's not going to be there. He's going to be there. Draft that one over the other piles of garbage, right? Like
for sure.
All right. Okay, I'll start off with tight end this time because I hate tight ends. Target Tucker Kraft. I like Tucker Kraft as my tight end, and that's mainly because I don't understand the position very well. So I'm gonna go with the guy that I had last year, and I drafted him in like the 12th, 13th round. Again, bargain bin draft pick turned into fantasy gold. He was like tight end 1, I think, when he was actually playing, and he had that huge performance against the Steelers Sunday Night Football, and all of a sudden he tears his ACL. That was it. But that's the kind of potential, that's again, the kind of thing you want to do where it's like you draft him late with the potential to be big, and he did hit off. And it hit off great for me, and then he tore his ACL. The only thing that concerns me with Tucker Kraft is the ACL tear. If he didn't have that ACL tear, I think he'd be going in the 4th, 5th round. Probably with the Lovelands and the Fannons and, Laportas and stuff like that. He's a little bit at a discount right now because of it. If he recovers from that, I really like him because I think the Packers didn't make any changes really in their receiving room. They signed Jaden Reed and Christian Watson, I believe, to extensions, and then they got rid of Romeo Doubs. He went to free agency. So that receiving room is now just Reed, Watson, and Golden, who really just didn't do anything last year. But the Packers under LaFleur has always been the same, where it's like, we're just going to have a bunch of wide receivers. They all play a certain role, but they are not stars. They're not alphas. Jordan Love has no reason to target any of them more than like 5 times a game, right? But Kraft is really the big factor in that offense because they do specifically design plays for him. I've seen it happen. They've had these rollouts. They have these bootlegs specifically going to Kraft. And the bigger thing is that Kraft is a yak monster. He's amazing with the yards after the catch. And I saw that, last season. And that was one of the indications that made me want to draft him the year before is that, if he just gets enough volume, he gets like 20 yards. He can get like 20 yards off of just one catch. Even though the Packers spread it out really thinly, if he just gets 5 catches and he turns each of them into like 10-yard gains, that's, like what, 10 points right there. Like 5 catches, 50 yards. Like that's all you need from a tight end. The only thing that concerns me obviously is the price. If he's going in like the 6th round, that's super high to me. If it's a 7th round or it's like a late 6th, I could be tempted to do it. But again, you're looking at a guy who could be a tight end 1, right? Because I don't think the situation's changed for him. As long as he returns to form, I think he has the potential to break through, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that definitely where these tight ends are being drafted from what I've seen the mocks out there. It's always like guys like Kyle Pitts, Fannin, Porter, Kraft are always like stuck together at that kind of like round 6, round 7 a turn area there. So that seems like a popular area where you can get yourself honestly a really solid tight end, like a set it and forget it tight end for the season there. So I'd be happy with honestly like any of those guys at that point draft, and especially Tucker Kraft. You know, I had him the last couple years, and then he got hurt last year, and he was playing super well up until his injury last season. So definitely like the pick for Tucker Kraft.
Yeah, and I'll read out his yards per catch real quick. Like he averages, like I'm looking at his stats, he never had less than 8 yards per catch. So he's like getting usually double-digit yards per catch. Like I'm seeing 20, 11, 21, 11, 20.4. Like he's usually getting these monster, like it's not because he's going down the field and getting these 20-yard catches. No, he's taking these short passes. He's going huge, he's going big with them. And they like using him in the red zone. He only had 3 games last season out of, I think, 9 where he didn't score a touchdown. So he's a red zone threat. And that's exactly what, like when you're drafting tight ends, thing I look for, touchdown. Just get a touchdown. Like don't
touchdown
even care
guarantee.
about the rest. Exactly. You'll see that later in the regular season.
Yeah. Yeah, for myself, speaking of touchdowns here, this is a guy I wouldn't necessarily, I guess it's not really a guy I'm like specifically targeting and drafting around that like 6th and 7th round period. But I do think this is a guy that, hey, if it comes down to it, you need to get like a tight end. Like this is a guy I'd be quite optimistic, or I would think would be still a good pick for where it's at there. You know, I actually like Dallas Goedert. I think he's averaging around kind of like the 9th and 10th round over there. I think it's definitely lower than, I'm sure there's the hesitancies around him. He's definitely getting up there. He's well into his 30s now. And then last season, he was a touchdown monster. I think he had like 11 touchdowns. I think that's what he got last season. So that racked up to a ton of fantasy points that he's getting. And then I think part of my optimism for this season is that a lot of the key corner pieces is still going to be the same, if not improved out there. So with AJ Brown out of town, that's one less massive mouse to feed for all the receptions that's getting out there. So perhaps that would mean more for Goddard. And then keeping Devonta Smith, keeping Saquon, keep on with these USC guys. Mekhi Lemon, of course, he is out there. He's a first round, or he's a, I don't think it was quite first round.
No, he's first round. He's first round.
He was first round draft pick out there. He is hurt right now, and I've heard reports at the training camp that he hasn't been like learning the playbook that well, so he's a step or 2 behind, which of course can be tough for rookies.
Is that USC education?
No, I think it was not. But he was playing was a pretty friendly, right? Lincoln Riley era type offense is typically easier to kind of pick up in some of the more pro style ones. So maybe it's symptoms of some of that out there, but the word is that he's not getting up to speed with the playbook as much. So that would leave room for, if Jalen Hurts, and he still's got to throw the ball out there. You got Devonta Smith, and then there's Dallas Goedert out there. So perhaps Dallas, this is the chance for him to get more receptions. Maybe he doesn't get as much. He probably won't get as much touchdowns as he did last season, but I think he'll make up for that with receptions, just being mouth to feed for Jalen Hurts out there. So I think he'll do well, especially for your team in the first part of the season. Maybe Mekhi comes back, learns the offense, pops up in the latter half, but Dallas Goedert will do you good, at least for the start of the season.
I like it. I think that touchdown regression is a very high possibility for him because that's a lot of touchdowns for him. But I do think that he's still a big factor in the offense because it's Devonta Smith and then who else? Like Mekhi, again, hasn't proved himself yet. So it's probably going to be Goddard, very shallow middle route. And I think the biggest thing is that he got targeted a lot last season. Like he was averaging a lot of targets, and I don't see that. I see it dipping a little bit, but I think that it's enough of a factor in the offense where he's probably going to get at least 3 or 4 catches a game. And again, when you're in the trenches, you're in the trenches. So a guy with the ability to catch 4 passes for like 30 yards is 7 points right there. Ability to get a touchdown is higher than other tight ends. So, I could definitely see him as a very viable, tight end option. Yeah. Okay, let's get real bad
Oh
here with
no.
these. This is gonna
We're
be
talking bad tight
disgusting.
ends.
Yeah, bad tight ends. So, the worst possible tight end that I like, and I'm saying like, and again, I very much like if I could draft a tight end in round 15, I would do it. Like that's how low I grade it because again, the difference is negligible. So, with that being said, I am going to give a name that might be so bad because again, it's not desperation. Desperation. Just remember that. Bear with me when I say that the worst possible tight end that I would start in my lineup is Greg Dulcich from Miami.
What? He's in Miami now? I thought he was still in Denver.
No, that's how much we don't remember him. Yes, the 26-year-old guy who looks like a Weird Al is now in Miami. I think they signed him a little bit after Darren Waller died there. So now he's, the tight end. Why do I like him? Because he's probably the best receiving option there in Miami. And someone's got to do something there. Like, someone's got to catch passes. Like, I'm not saying Malik Willis is going to go 0 for 24 in terms of completions, right? So maybe he gets 6. Maybe he gets 12 for 24, right? 50%. Where do you think those 12 targets are going to? Malik Washington? I don't even know who the other Miami, wide receivers
A
are.
Chain.
Yeah,
Maybe to one of the rookies
Let's
they
say,
got or something like that, but that's it.
okay, let's say 12 completions. Let's say 6 to Achan. Let's say 4 to Malik Washington. That's okay, that's not giving me a lot of pie for Dulcich, but you know what I mean. Dulcich is a receiver and he can catch. And there's not a lot of catchers there. So therefore, you can see what you can do. Like, I'd be willing to see what he can do week 1 and see if he's emerges as the main option for Willis, which honestly, again, could be super possible. Like, we're not saying like the worst possible tight end. Like, you could technically do even worse, but I'm looking at a guy that could even like be a volume magnet and could rise up a lot further up to the top. So I think Dulcich has that possibility. With some of these guys, I know they're probably not going to do that. Like Hunter Henry, I know he's not going to do it. Like, he's probably not going to be a tight end 1. That's just not going to happen. TJ Hawkinson, probably not going to happen. Chiga Okonkwo, I don't think so. AJ Barner, I don't think so. Like, Jawan Johnson, I very much considered him, but I just don't think he's going to be a top tight end. So you could technically start worse and get a more decent outlook, but I'm looking for a guy who's really, really not there and really could rise to the top. Again, it's about the risk level. Because again, you could just cut him, move on.
Well, you've took a lot of, just named a bunch of guys I was considering out there. Like,
Now you gotta go worse.
Oh, dude. I mean, I'm thinking of guys like, I'll just speak out loud here. I mean, guys like Hawkinson, Dalton Schultz, right? They're both getting up with age.
Yeah, Dalton Schultz, I think, is good. I think he's, because Jaden Higgins just tore his ACL. So,
yeah.
I mean, you will never like starting Dalton Schultz, but he was a tight end 10 last year.
I think I would roll with him. There. Like, I was using Dalton Schultz as like my last gasp streamers out towards the end of the season because he was who was healthy, because that Texans offense was just decimated at the start of the season. But I mean, yeah, looking at the offensive pieces it's Houston Texans. I mean, CJ Stroud, he's strutting around with just like an extra large T-shirt out there. I don't know how much longer CJ Stroud's got left in him. But there's Nico Collins, and then Jaden Higgins out for the season. And the guys like Tank Dell, Jalen Noel, I think they were hurt. Tank Dell was super hurt, and they're coming back from it. Xavier Hutchinson had some shines, I think, in the postseason a little bit, because, I mean, he was the last guy's healthy at that point. Mm-hmm. So I think my main thing for Schultz, and my biggest hesitancy is this far down the list already, which is like, there's still so much young talent at wide receivers, assuming those guys get healthy. I think those are the weapons that Houston's going to rely on to unlock their offense a bit more. I think they'll go increasingly away from an aging Schultz, which is also a similar concern for guys like, Hawkinson as well, right? Jordan Addison, Justin Jefferson out there, Kyler Murray. Who knows who he'll target? Who's this guy out there? He might not even. Oh well, he did throw a ton to McBride, so who knows? But
Kyler doesn't target tight ends. Remember, that's why McBride never got shit.
I guess. Yeah, so there you go. No, Morris against Hawkins. I probably would lean Schultz as like my like last gasp tight end out there. I guess also similar to the Goddard, at least for the start of the seasons as these rookies are coming back or these young players are getting back from injury, getting acclimated out there, Schultz gets his due, he gets his receptions and his touchdowns at the start of the season there. So yeah, I think I would lean with Schultz. You could definitely do worse than him at this point, this far down the list,
Yeah, we could get worse. I'm looking at Eli Stowers, Pat Fryermuth.
Cade Otton is still around, I guess.
Otton. Yeah, Cade Otton is like, these are like, you're in the big old weeds right there.
Shout out Darren Waller, though. He's still on a team. He was on Miami, and he was catching touchdowns towards the end of last season, like 2 receptions and a touchdown for like 3 weeks straight towards the end of last season. So
is he with Carolina now?
He's in Carolina. He's your last gasp of any tight ends you could pick up off waiver wires at this point. But yeah,
it's really tight ends that can score touchdowns too. Like Njoku, I think is a little interesting because Mike McDaniel was the guy who schemed Darren Waller for that, and now he's in LA. So I mean, Njoku is a big dude too. Like I could see him just being the bullshit touchdown artist, and that's all he does.
Yeah, it's like Njoku versus Gatson, and they're both kind of like in that similar-ish tier of like, okay, I guess I have to get a tight end, but who's gonna win out? That's when I would like both of those guys, Gatson and Njoku, but that's I would rather wait and see if I'm gonna even look for them for my waiver wire tight end pickup for the week.
Yeah, honestly, you just give up at that point. Like, don't draft a tight end 6. Don't draft the 6th best tight end on the board in like this. That would be the dumbest thing. Like, I cannot stress enough. Don't waste a single-digit draft pick on a tight end that is not going to be top 3 just because you want to get the tight end 4 or 5. There's literally a 1-point difference or a no-point difference. Like, I cannot imagine. Like, I could not believe 0-point difference between the tight end 4 versus the tight end, like 9 or 12. That like basically invalidates the whole position. Like, there's no difference. Like, you'll get some, they'll get some, but in the end, it really didn't matter. So, I hate tight ends. I hate hiking. I think that's gonna do it for the episode.
Yeah. Take a break from the hike, recover your legs, and also from this pod. Talk some grimy names out there. If you guys are drafting some of these names out there, I pray for your season.
Yeah, we tried to help you, but we gotta wash our hands clean of all this. Well, that is going to do it for today's episode. Be sure to follow us on Spotify, iTunes, Amazon Music, YouTube, wherever you get your podcast from to listen to the latest and greatest of our sports takes. We will be concluding the fantasy draft primer very soon. I think we might have 1 or 2 episodes left. We're going to be talking, league winners and sleepers and whatnot, and we'll be doing our mock drafts. So hopefully you'll pay attention. And we have a lot of great content for you too. Before you can check out the rest of the episodes of the Draft Primer, a lot of good content. We want to make sure that you are super informed when it comes to fantasy draft season. And yeah, follow along, join our Discord, ask any questions you want there. We're getting into the home stretch of things. Like, September's coming. It's only a couple, 11 days away, I think, at this point. Ooh.
Yeah. Don't wait till the last minute to set your draft date, because I feel like that's a scramble for me and my leagues every year. We're like, shoot, we gotta set up a draft date. I guess we'll do it over like Labor Day weekend or something like that. So
I always draft Labor Day weekend.
I guess that's what it always defaults to. But yeah, get that figured out soon. Don't wait till the last minute until you're panicking and it's Wednesday night before the first game.
Oh, you can't draft Wednesday night. We have Wednesday. We have a Wednesday night football opener.
It starts Wednesday? Okay, so Tuesday night then.
Yep. Get your drafts early and listen to our podcast. Stay tuned. Thank you so much, guys.
Good luck.